just with a brief overview of my background, and I'll also discuss my course. And in discussing my course, I'll tell you how I came up with some of the key ideas to overcome that conundrum and create a group project that really works. And then I'll dive into the details of that group project and how the corporate simulation works. And then we're going to finish up with a fun and interactive innovation exercise, something that we typically do in my course that you can use to solve problems for anything you have, whether it's how to improve a course or even how to improve something in your personal life. I also want to, at the outset, let everybody know I would like this to be an interactive session. So please raise your hand in Zoom. If you have a question or comment, I'd be happy to entertain these during the session. We don't have to wait to the end. If you're not sure how to raise your hand in Zoom, here's a quick visual primer. On your Zoom menu, if you just click near the bottom of your screen, you should see this bar come up on the bottom. And on the right there, you'll see reactions. And in reactions, you can click on raise your hand. And I should see that. If I don't see that, then just please feel free to just speak out loud. We don't have that large a group. So again, don't be shy about interrupting me at any point to ask questions. So first, just a little bit about my background. So I spent 25 years managing innovation in Fortune 500 companies. This is what I call my visual resume. So I mostly spent time with AT&T and Bank of America. And then in 2014, I left the corporate world and I was invited to create the class on business creativity and innovation at the University of North Florida. And the class has become a real staple. It's very popular. It fills to capacity every semester. And in 2019, I was invited by the dean of the business school to create an MBA version of the class. And then last year, I was greatly honored with the Outstanding Adjunct Professor Award. I also published a college textbook that accompanies the class. It's also in use in several other universities and was reviewed in the International Journal of Innovation Management a few years ago. And Forbes magazine found out about my class and wrote a really nice article about it. You can find the article very quickly just by Googling Forbes and my name, Len Ferman. Now a little bit about the course itself. So first of all, what is innovation? It's one of the most overused buzzwords in 21st century business. So I always like to just define, well, what do I mean by innovation? So I view innovation very simply as an idea that is successfully launched as a new product, service, program, or process. And almost always it's to solve for an external or internal customer need. Now, why do I say external or internal customer need? Because for most of us, when we think about the word innovation, we think about, well, what probably comes to mind is what's Apple's latest product launch. But innovation doesn't just apply to new products and to large companies. Innovation actually applies to everyone because everybody's got a customer. Whether your customer is a traditional external customer of the company, somebody you're selling products and services to, or it's an internal customer. So I like to say that whether you're the product manager or the payroll manager, you have a customer. Because if you're the payroll manager, your customers are all the employees who receive their paychecks every week, and they all have an experience. And innovation is all about solving for customer needs. So everybody's got an experience. Everybody you're delivering something to has an experience, and that experience can always be improved. And so all of us every day actually have customers and can leverage the innovation process. Now, to innovate effectively, I've also found that it's very important to first have a specific innovation objective. So I'm very big on teaching students to come up with good innovation objectives. And I like to share my favorite innovation objective. I think the greatest innovation objective in history was when President Kennedy said, we're going to land a man on the moon and return him safely to the earth. I'm so passionate about this one that I want to actually show you that moment from 61 years ago. Here's a YouTube video where President Kennedy, in his State of the Union address, makes this famous statement.
First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space.
So the reason I love that innovation objective statement is it meets all my criteria for a great innovation objective statement. It uses simple language. Everybody could understand what the goal was. And it's inspirational. And we want to seek to inspire when we have innovation, when we're setting an innovation objective. And it was challenging but achievable. It was inside the realm of what we could technically do. So that's the first thing we do is we set innovation objectives. And then we leverage my four-step, oh, I'm sorry. So I used my own process when I was developing my class. And my objective in developing my class was to reinforce the class material in a fun and interactive manner that simulates how it's done in the corporate world. So that was my innovation objective when I was innovating to develop this class. Now, how do we do this? How do we run innovation? What's the process? I teach a very simple, straightforward, four-step process to innovation: explore, ideate, evaluate, design. We spend the whole semester getting a deep understanding of each of these four steps in the process. In the explore phase, it's all about gaining a deep understanding of customer problems. That's what innovation is all about, understanding customer problems and solving them. And this brings up a quote from Albert Einstein, and this underscores why I believe the explore phase is actually the most important part of the whole innovation process. Einstein said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. Would anybody care to conjecture either in the chat or raise your hand and tell me why do you think Einstein would have said, if I have an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes just thinking about the problem, only 5 minutes thinking about solutions? I see I've got one response in the chat. Oh, well, yes, I will provide the PowerPoint. Everybody can get, I've already sent the conference organizers a PDF. CJ Charlotte Jones says, because you really need to understand the problem. Yes, I actually have the answer really here on the page for you. If you get a deep understanding of a problem, then the solutions just become obvious. And so the important thing is to really get that deep understanding of the problem. And that's what we're doing in the explore phase, getting a deep understanding of the problem. So in my class, oh, one more thing about this. To get that deep understanding of the problem, you always have to ask why. Why questions are your best friend in the explore phase. You need to ask the question why so many times that you become a wise guy. Now, what did I do when I was developing my class? Well, to get a deep understanding, I wanted to understand I think of my students as customers. I wanted to find out what my customers thought about group projects and why they didn't like them. And the key thing I found out, the key underlying reason why they didn't like group projects was the issue of freeloading. They were afraid that they were going to get stuck doing all the work. And so I really had to go to the drawing board to figure out, how am I going to address this issue of this underlying issue of freeloading? And that brings in the ideate phase. So in the ideate phase, this is the fun part of innovation. This is where we do nothing but generate ideas. We want to generate a large number of ideas. That's our goal, our objective in this phase. I like to say we're adopting the mindset of a professional photographer. If you think about a photo shoot, if you've ever seen a photo shoot, the photographer doesn't line up their subject perfectly and take one great picture. They're clicking away from all different angles. They're having the subject move. They're changing the lighting. They're generating they're coming up with as many pictures as they can in the hopes that one of them is going to be a cover shot. And we're doing the same thing in the ideate phase. We want to generate a lot of ideas, hoping that we've got a few gems, a few big breakthrough ideas. Now, that's all fine, but a lot of people think they can't come up with ideas, that you have to be creatively gifted. And I try to bust this myth in the class. And one of the key things I do is show students that anyone can generate great ideas when you use creative exercises. And a key part of our class in the ideate phase is sharing with students a whole number of creative exercises they can use to come up with ideas. My very favorite one I'm going to share with you right now is called Related Worlds. The idea of related worlds is that you're going to look to other industries and see how they solve problems, similar problems. or sometimes we look to those industries and just try to understand what are the characteristics of them? What do we think about them? Or how do they structure their products? So we're thinking about another group and looking at how they do things. And the way I typically would run a related worlds creative exercise is I would break up a large group into small groups of 3 or 4 people. I'd have each one of them pick a related world. So another company or industry, or sometimes even another person that they want to think about. And then they're going to identify all the attributes of that company and think about how they solve problems. And then they're going to use that list they came up with to look back at our innovation objective and say, how can we leverage some of these things to come up with ideas to solve our innovation objective? This related worlds method of thinking is so powerful that some of the world's greatest innovations used this method, whether the people who came up with the innovation realized it or not. The best example is what's generally considered to be the greatest human innovation ever, the printing press. We know that Gutenberg, who invented the printing press in Germany sometime around 1450, we know that he had seen the grape press. The grape press had been in use for centuries to crush grapes in winemaking. And it's really not that much of a stretch to think that he probably used related worlds thinking. He saw the grape press and he thought, I could use that type of press technology to solve the innovation objective I have of trying to come up with a more efficient way to copy books than having monks write them out by a longhand. And so there we get the innovation, the printing press, which revolutionized academics and the world. In my class, to develop my class, I developed several ideas for how to solve the problem of freeloading. And one of the things I did was I used related worlds. I thought about, well, how did we do things in the corporate world? And one of the key things I thought about was we always had team leaders. And that was a key spark, as you're going to see later, in the ideas for solving the freeloading problem. Next comes the evaluate phase. And the evaluate phase, just like it sounds, we're narrowing down our ideas. I like to say we're selecting a portfolio of ideas to pursue. We might not just be one idea, but several ideas. Usually when we come out of brainstorming, we've got hundreds of ideas and we've got to narrow them down. How do we do that? We evaluate them using agreed upon criteria. And in my class, I actually identified from students what were the key criteria. And one of those key criteria was ensure everyone has an equal amount of work. So I had to think about that as I was selecting ideas. And then finally comes the design phase. In the design phase, we're creating the optimal solution via systematic experimentation of prototypes. So we build prototypes and we test them. And then we learn from them and refine them and we test them again. And we go through multiple cycles. We keep testing and refining until whatever it is, the product, service, program, or process that we're innovating for really resonates with our target audience. And in my class, I initially came out when I first started the class in 2014, I had the group project and I implemented many ideas over several semesters and got a feedback loop. So every semester I find out from students, what did they like and dislike about the group project? And I've evolved the group project. And one of the great things I've done, or that I think students have really liked, is I show them, here's how we used to do this. Here's how we're doing it now. This was all based on student feedback. And that spurs them to give me good feedback the next semester. In fact, every semester I've probably made at least a little incremental improvement based on student feedback for the group project. So what is this group project and how does it operate? And how does it simulate the corporate world? So first of all, the objectives of the group project were to simulate the experience of managing an innovation project at a large company. I knew how to do this because I had done this at Bank of America for many years. And in doing so, the group project reinforces all the key learnings of the class in a fun and interactive manner. The methodology is we typically have teams of 5 students, and they're serving as a fictitious innovation agency or innovation department of a large company. And they select a publicly traded company that's going to be their fictitious client that they're going to work for during the entire semester. And then very generally, there's a whole bunch of assignments and due dates that they complete during the semester. So it's a semester-long group project with multiple interim assignments. There's also a final report and presentation, but they're not actually even the most important thing in the project. It's all the deliverables combined. And I want to just give you some tangible idea of what we're talking about, I want to give you a snapshot of some of the most important final outputs. Here's a best-in-class example. So one of the things the students do is they take all the ideas, they narrow down to a top idea, and they write a concept statement for the top idea. Here's a concept statement for a team that picked Carnival Cruise Lines a few years ago. I'm going to read this to you. It's called the Carnival Virtual Concierge. Wouldn't it be so nice to be able to click a few buttons on your phone and have your daily activities and all set and scheduled for you, in addition to your place in the buffet line reserved? Problem solved, because we are introducing Carnival Cruise's innovative concierge application. Gone are the days of old when you had to wait in lines. As our new application provides you with concierge-level care throughout your cruise. It will schedule your daily activities based on your preferences, get your show tickets, provide directions around the ship to all the great things you can do, and then to top it off, it will wait in line for you. Your AI-driven concierge will ensure that you maximize your fun while also maximizing your relaxation. So come on board, because the only thing your virtual concierge cannot do is apply the sunscreen. By the way, all students have to write at least 2 of these types of concept statements during the semester for their top ideas. And then another key output is when they develop a prototype for their top concept. They do this in a single in-class workshop, and we've been doing this via Zoom since the start of the pandemic. Here's an example from the Carnival Cruise Line team. So they created screenshots of the mobile app. So on the left side is the home page of what the mobile app would look like, and then the menu for the mobile app. And then they created a couple more screenshots of what it might look like if you selected the join a food line part of the application. And then they show you how the app is going to update you on your place in line. So I thought this was a really excellent, what I call early rapid prototype. They created this in just 45 minutes during a Zoom session. So let's back up a little bit. That's the output, but how does this group project actually operate? Well, it actually starts even before the semester begins. About a week before the semester starts, I put up a discussion in Canvas, and it's the first graded task for the semester. All students have to participate in the discussion, and it almost becomes like looking like a Facebook feed. So I give them all these prompts you can see here, where they introduce themselves, and they give their thoughts on 3 large publicly traded companies that they might want to innovate for, and then they also, as part of their grade, they have to reply to at least 2 teammates, so that stimulates conversation. And I found this really works because the students like doing this kind of thing. It's just like using Facebook, and especially during the pandemic, where all these students are remote, this enables them to get to know everybody, and get to know everybody in a useful way, because it's helping them specifically to identify other students that they might want to work with and form teams. And so from the discussion, they form teams. And then the actual project itself has 6 parts. Parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are graded. Part 0, I call it 0 because it's part of the setup process, where we're putting the teams together and getting some of the housekeeping done. Then the project takes off. And here's the key thing I tell students at the start of the semester now. I put it in, this is the actual slide from the course, because they just don't believe me. So I got to put it in big, bold, colorful letters. You're graded individually. You don't have to worry if another student on your team doesn't perform their role, because each student's going to have assigned roles on the team. And I'm going to show you how we do that in a few minutes. So first of all, one of the key innovations was that each student on the team serves as a team leader for one part of the project. So everybody's going to have this opportunity to be a team leader. So right there, you can't freeload when you're the team leader, and everybody's going to be a team leader for one part of the project and get that valuable experience. And I serve as each team's CEO. And so here's the structure I create. So I'm the CEO of all the teams, and I only interact with the team leader. So this makes it manageable for me. When I've got 30 or 40 students in a class, all semester, I'm only interacting at any time with usually about 6 or 7 team leaders. And then those team leaders, they're responsible for managing their team members during the time they're team leader. And again, remember, everybody's going to be a team leader. I also require them to use UNF email the same way you would use corporate email. And this is really, I'm finding this is really new and different for them, because a lot of them don't have to use their university email. But just as if you went to work for a company, you would have to use that company's email. This is a key part of simulating the experience, is they have to use UNF email. Now, I try not to be overburdensome. It's mostly just for the team leaders. When you're the team leader, I require you to reply to any emails I send within 24 hours on weekdays. I don't think that's unreasonable for the few weeks of the semester where you're a team leader. And I try to minimize the emails I send. Usually, if a team leader is doing a good job, I might send them 3 or 4 emails during the whole time that they're a team leader. At the beginning of the project, we have a couple of in-class workshops where the teams get together for the first time and they select their client. They agree on their innovation objective, and they set up who is going to be the team leaders and how they're going to communicate with each other. So we do all that kind of housekeeping stuff very early, usually about the 3rd or 4th class of the semester. We have the in-class workshop where we do this. And then we're kind of off and running. And about 1/3 of all the classes during the semester are in-class workshops where students are conducting various parts of the group project during class. And this is another innovation that was driven by students. Early on, I probably had 1 or 2 in-class workshops, and then students started telling me that a lot of my students at UNF, almost everyone, has jobs outside of class. They're really pressed for time, and so they found it helpful if we could do more in class. And I really thought about that, and there was tremendous benefits of that, I realized, because it ensured that everybody was going to be there, and they didn't have to round up students outside of class to do stuff, which was difficult when everybody's got busy schedules. And even just as important, it meant I could observe each team as they were working and provide direction. And so the in-class workshops become something the students really like, and it's become it's provided a lot of valuable teaching moments. Now, in each part of the group project, there's lots of deliverables. As you can see here's an overview of some deliverables. On the right side, where in the due date column, you'll see I have in green where it says conducted in class. So we've got all these in-class workshops. In this explore phase, there's a consumer research workshop where they actually the students interview each other to get that deep understanding of customer needs about whatever it is their innovation objective is. And at the end of the explore phase, they're all presenting key findings. Everybody has to get up and do about a couple of minute presentation on the research that they did. Now, here's one of the key innovations I came up with that allows me to grade everybody individually. It's the team leader's task at the beginning of each part. So if you're the part 1 team leader, the first thing you do is you submit a plan. The plan identifies who is going to do, how are you going to divide up the work on your team? So the interesting thing here is I'm giving a true managerial experience to the team leader, because I'm not saying that I'm going to divide up the work. I don't divide up the work for the students. The team leader does. And so the team leader would have to submit this form. And so I give them this template, and the yellow boxes would all be blank. And I would tell the team leaders, you're going to fill in, here's all the tasks in part 1. You're going to fill in who's going to be responsible and when you want them to deliver it to you. If you notice, the last column says see course schedule on homepage of Canvas. So all of these items, there's a date that it's due to me. And I put up a 1-page schedule that shows all the due dates for the semester. So for part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I got 1 page they can go to, and they see every due date for the semester. That's when I want to get it from the team leader. But I want the team leaders to have total autonomy, to have a true managerial experience, so they can divide up the work the way they want to. So they identify who's going to be responsible, and when they want that person to send it to them. And then the team leader sends me the plan. I'll review the plan, and I might go back and forth with the team leader, and I might say, well, Bob doesn't have, or Sally doesn't have, or in this one, Carla doesn't have enough work. You only gave Carla one thing to do. So maybe you want to have Carla partner up with Betty or something like that. So I will work with them to make sure that the plan has equal amount of work, but I don't dictate to them how they're going to develop the plan. And so this becomes the key thing, because I now know when the work gets delivered, I know who worked on what, and I only grade people on the work that they worked on. And then I've got similar overviews for parts 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in each part, there's always at least one, or usually 2 or 3 interactive classes. So we've got, all these interactive classes all semester. And as I mentioned, the course schedule is on Canvas. And a key interesting thing about this is I've discovered over the years that a lot of students have become dependent, really dependent on Canvas assignments to show them everything that's coming up, or to proactively show them. And I think we're doing a disservice when we do that. Students need to proactively be able to find out when due dates are, and develop their own system to be able to keep track of them. And all the detailed instructions for the group project are in the Canvas module. So when you're the team leader, the first thing I tell you is that I want you to make sure that you have a full understanding of everything that's going to be due in your part. If you're the part 1 team leader, you're the expert in part 1. And so I have all the instructions are in the Canvas module. So I want them to go read all the instructions for part 1. And then they develop the plan for the team. And then I tell them, now your job as team leader is to be a manager. You're going to manage to your plan. Check on team member progress. Make sure you're getting the work and delivering it to me. And you're going to be my single point of contact. What I also explained to them is their responsibility stops at telling people what they're supposed to do. They're not responsible for the performance of their team members. So if somebody doesn't perform, if you gave somebody a task and that person just doesn't submit it to you, that's okay. I won't get it. I might inquire to the team leader, hey, what happened, with Betty's work? And the team leader might say, well, I communicated with them 3 times and they just didn't submit it. And I'll be, okay, you did your job. That's great. I'm going to give you high marks as team leader, but I'm going to mark Betty off for not submitting that. And that's how everybody's graded individually. And another thing is I really strongly discourage the students from trying to make up other people's work. It's really interesting that a lot of students feel the need, if somebody's not doing work, to make it up for them. And I actually have to tell them sometimes that I'm going to look down upon that, because the instructions are clear. You don't do the work of other people. And it's okay. It's not going to hurt the team if the other person didn't do their work. I've got a lot of great feedback over the years on the group project, especially as we've improved it. My favorite quotes are the ones I've highlighted here. The semester-long group innovation project will solidify innovation techniques into your brain forever. That was my goal in coming up with the project. I loved how he structured our group project and how each student was independently graded. And from an MBA student, it's the class that I distinctly remember from the MBA program, because I felt like I got real world experience that I could use in any role. And that was a real heartwarming response I saw from an MBA student. Another thing that I implemented courtesy of the pandemic gave me the opportunity when we were on Zoom to invite a lot of business colleagues to participate in the class, because it was really easy for them to just log in from home. And so I created an innovation guest panel for our MBA class. And I have a lot of pretty distinguished business people come and participate in the class in various workshops. So in the consumer research, they might serve as a consumer. The MBA student would interview them. For a brainstorming session, they would serve as a business consultant. Also for reviewing concept statements like that Carnival Concierge concept statement we saw earlier. They would come in and students would read them their concepts and they would provide feedback. And then the highlight of the semester for the panelists is when they get to participate in a Shark Tank like final presentation, where each each student presents their final concept to this panel of business leaders. And I've had some pretty senior people. I've had a former president of Royal Caribbean, a director of innovation at Johnson & Johnson, and the head of market research at Bank of America participate in the class. One other thing I implemented in the pandemic is what I call the 5-minute Zoom meeting. I require each student to set up a Zoom meeting and send me a calendar invite. And the reason I do this is twofold. First of all, this is the way meetings are being conducted in the business world. You set up a Zoom link and you send somebody a calendar invite. But also it's so I can check in with each student one-on-one, see how they're doing, especially in the early days of the pandemic, and see what problems or concerns they have about the class and coach them on their time as a team leader. So the 5-minute Zoom meeting, and I literally try to keep it to 5 minutes, has really been helpful for a lot of students. And I just explained it all here, so I'll skip this slide. And now we have about 13 minutes left, I believe, for a fun and for two, I think we're going to be able to fit in 2 of them, fun and interactive innovation exercises. So these are actual creative exercises that you would have, if you were participating in my class last week, students would have been running this. So let's pretend right now that we're all working for Netflix, and we have a very simple innovation objective. We want to improve the viewing experience for anyone using Netflix. So the first creative exercise we're going to use is called Pick Your Problem. It's a very simple creative exercise. I'm going to show you a list of problems on the next slide. In fact, let me just go to the next slide. So here's a list of problems that we came up with in research with Netflix when we were when we were in the explore phase. So take a look at the list of problems here, and I want you to pick one that you're interested in solving. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open up breakout rooms in just a minute, and you're going to select the breakout room that you want to go to based on the number of the problem that you wanted to solve. So if you want to work on problem number 3, then you're going to go to breakout room number 3. When you get into that breakout room, I want you to discuss the problem with other people and see if you can come up with a couple of ideas. I'm only going to open the breakout rooms for about 3 minutes. So you can discuss the problem and any ideas that you have. When we come back, I'll try to hear from one person, one idea from each room. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms in just a moment. You'll see me pop in and out. I'm going to just come in and see how the groups are doing. But again, it's only going to be for 3 minutes. So the rooms are now open. You can pick your problem now. If anybody's having trouble picking a room, let me know. Just tell me the room number. I'll put you in that room. Still have a number of people who haven't moved to a room yet. Wendy, I still see 4 people here. Does anybody need help picking a room? And we could use an extra, please don't go to room 3. Nobody's in room 3. We could use 1 or 2 extra people in room 4. In fact, I'm just going to move some people to room 4.
And I'm going to stay out here just in case anybody has problems, okay? You going well?
Oh, and Lynn, you're still muted.
Thanks for letting me know. Welcome back, everybody. And I'm trying to share, maximize my screen again. Now, I hope you enjoyed that. So we're only have 5-6 minutes left. Let me just hear from one or two people if you've got an idea that you came up with that you really want to share. So raise your hand or put it in the chat. And then we're going to go on to one more creative exercise in our last 5 minutes. So anybody have one they would like to share?
Yeah, I'll share. Bring
Okay,
ratings
Go
back.
ahead. Bring ratings back.
Yeah,
Okay. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
sure, absolutely. Just say I don't want to see anything that's below a 4-star rating.
Oh, that would be nice to just have
Yeah.
a little filter there. Okay, that's a great idea. All right, now in the last few minutes, we're going to practice related worlds. I'm really glad we can get this in because this is one that you can, it's, as I mentioned before, it's a very powerful method. It can help you generate really big breakthrough ideas. Whereas I think Pick Your Problem is good at coming up with little incremental ideas. And I showed you the example of the printing press. That was a big idea. So here's how we're going to do a very abbreviated related worlds. I'm going to show you a list of related worlds. And we're going to be, remember, we're going to be innovating our same innovation objective here, improve the viewing experience for anyone at Netflix. So here's some choices for related worlds. I want you right now into the chat, put the number associated with the related world that you'd be most interested in us focusing on to help us come up with some attributes. So just type a number into the chat for 1 to 9 for one of these industries. And I'm just going to quickly scan the chat after we get a few votes. And I'm only going to keep the voting open for a few more seconds. Okay, it looks like number 3 is our winner. Well, that's a good one, Disney World. So here's what we're going to do. I have done some of the heavy lifting work already. I came up with the characteristics of Disney World. So let's take a quick look at this list of characteristics. Everything is designed to create a magical feeling for the guests. They have several theme parks that each take a full day to see. There are fast passes to get on rides without waiting. There's a large variety of food options. There's a variety of attractions for all ages. It leverages well-known and loved characters. It's an all-in-one resort. You never have to leave the property. It has a clean and fresh appearance. The employees are friendly cast members. There are hotels on the premises. You could spend an entire week there. There's multiple methods of transportation inside the park. They have piped in music and visual elements that create a stress-free experience. The parks are meticulously cleaned every night, and the park entrances are designed to create a sense of excitement and wonder. So thinking about any of these characteristics, I want to see, can we come up with ideas for Netflix that, and remember, our innovation objective is very simple. How can we improve the viewing experience for anyone watching Netflix? So anybody, and here we're not going to go to a breakout room, just anybody, either through the chat or just out loud, tell me any idea you have that was stimulated by something we're seeing here that Disney does. You don't have to explain, the thought process of how you got there. Just, a thought popped into your head after you're reading some of these things. Here's what we could do to improve the experience for Netflix. And I've got, let's see, I've got an idea in the chat. So Connie says an AI bot to help you choose. Okay, excellent idea. Thanks for sharing that, Connie. And we have a couple more minutes. So anybody else, again, either you can raise your hand or type in the chat. Let's see, Elizabeth said icons that match the show for the toolbar on the fast forward and rewind. So Elizabeth, would you mind just sharing out loud, explain the idea a little bit better, a little bit more so I can fully understand it?
Sure, just kind of adding to the theme. So I don't know if the show were about space, when you pause or fast forward or rewind, that little icon that shows you where you are, it could be a star, just to theme it with whatever the program is.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. And do we have any other ideas? Well, I'm going to share an idea that was stimulated by this, something I probably would have never thought of if I wasn't looking at this list of ideas. Number 4 is large variety of food options. So it occurred to me, well, I'm watching Netflix, especially if I'm sitting down for 2 or 3 hours. What if within Netflix I could order food? So just so I don't have to go out to Uber Eats or another app. I can just order food right through Netflix. And then Susan said shuffleboard contest code simulate the world. Susan, can you explain that one?
Yeah, we're wrapping up, so I wanted to
okay.
put the shuffleboard for those who are interested.
All right, thank you, Susan. I see we're just about out of time, so I am going to go to my final slide, which is simply thank you for your time. And if I do have 30 seconds here, I'm be happy to answer any questions, or feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'll just throw my my UNF email into the chat. Well, thank you again. I really enjoyed spending the 45 minutes with you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Len. We really appreciate your presentation.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody.
And everyone, we are going to take another little break, and then you can join us for our last Best in Track presentation at 3 o'clock. Thank you all very much. And again, I'll put the shuffleboard code into the chat. Thanks all.